I was wrestling with somebody else, I think. And then somehow you got involved.
Oh, so he'd got you when you were tired then?
Yeah. Well, he just like, he probably thought, I'll have a piece of that.
2015 there, Challenge Cup. Dig deep into this. Like, how hard is it not to be picked for that?
Played the weekend before, had a decent game. Walking out of Donny Racecourse, and I said, I'm in this week. I walked, just in my mind, I'm thinking, I might not get picked here. I did the 100 mile actually 12 months after my ACL reconstruction, which were fucking... It's $8,000 a year, full-time contract at Hull KR, and then we got promoted to Super League that year. So within the space of 2 years, I'd gone from getting kicked out of the army to playing Super League. If people haven't become aware now of how corrupt the world is, in particular politics, and how the world is run, then I just don't think there's much hope for them kind of people.
But spoon in hand, y'all don't help themselves, y'all. But when the tax man comes to the door, y'all, the house look like a rummage sale, yes. It ain't me.
It's nothing.
Yeah, yo.
Have two, bro. Spin that around.
See what it says in red there? Strong.
I've never had one, mate, so I don't know what
It
the
could.
fuck
You'd have a bad turn on this.
Have one for pod.
What is it, nicotine?
It's pure nicotine straight and gum.
Just try one for 5 minutes.
No, because I don't want to be fucking rambling or...
No, it won't make you ramble.
No, I won't try one first one.
Spin that round a bit. If you want, if you're trying to get a sponsor.
Always trying to get open out. I'm on to me nose now.
Oh, yeah.
You think? No, I will. I'm going to give one of my close friends, Benjamin Cocaine, a welcome, mate. I've been trying my best to get you on this fucking pod for a long time. I know you're a busy man doing extreme things, family man now. Where I want to start with you before we dive into what you're doing currently is, I've never really dove deep into your army days. So that period there where you'd finish school, did you go into the army pretty much straight away without your only option in your head? Is that what you were thinking?
No, when I left school, my father was a builder, so I started doing a bit of labouring with him.
Yeah.
And I went to Whitwood College to do my bricky course.
Keep that mic close to your mouth.
I think I lasted about probably a month or two, something like that. And then I got fed up of it, and I was walking by Careers office in Wakefield, and I just stuck my head in. And they have you do this touch screen test. So I did that, and they said, "Oh, you're good enough for infantry." So I was like, I don't really fancy infantry. I want to get a trade, ideally. So somehow I managed to wangle it where I got in Royal Engineers, and I just went from there. But the reason all that panned out is when I was younger, I was playing rugby to a decent... Well, I thought I was good. I was probably a good enough player, but as with anything, I think people find out about your character. People want to know about your character. And when I was younger growing up, I'll just reel some names off of kids I was playing with. One that a lot of people in the rugby community will know, in particular Jamie Langley, went on to be a Great Britain international. I played in Jamie's team right through junior level. But Jamie was one of them kids that always, every time he saw me, had a ball in his hand. You'd never find him hanging around on the park on a Friday night getting pissed up or anything like that, whereas I were the opposite. I would go out and I'd be, going to shop and get some cigs, mate. Or going to
Were you knocking bongs in and that this time?
I probably dabbled with it back end of school into me leaving school. I dabbled a bit with it then, but then I'd be getting people to buy me cider from the shop and stuff like that. Just typical Friday night, one-up lads trying to chase lasses around and whatnot. But Jamie never did anything like that, and that was the comparison. What I like to tell myself, I might just not have been good enough at that time, but I just probably weren't as dedicated. Even though I didn't really miss a training session, I probably weren't as deep into it as what Jamie was. Adam Thaler was another good lad. Richard Blakeway, they went on to academy level. And I just never got picked up, so I was probably a bit disheartened, thought I should have been. But then when I look back now, it was probably because of the things I was doing.
So where were you playing in rugby there?
Normanton.
Yeah,
spent
that amateur club.
All my amateur days at Normanton. I thought I was good enough, but I never made it anyway. So I went off into army with a bit of a sulk because I couldn't be arsed studying again. I didn't really like school anyway. Did pretty poor at school, and off I went at 17.
How is that at 17 to walk into infantry? Are you nervous? I
didn't end up in infantry. I ended up in engineers, so I was quite fortunate really. Because when I did my original test, my score was low on that because I went academic. Can't remember how it panned out, but I ended up getting Royal Engineers. I think it was because I told them I'd been at college doing some bricklaying, and my dad were a builder and all that stuff. And then I went off to my phase 1 training, got through that, and then I spent about 18 months in Chatham doing a trade course, a bricklaying course. So my first 18 months to 2 years in the army was spent in training. And then when I came to the back end of my army training, you get 3 options to choose where you want to get posted to. So I chose north of England. I was hoping to get posted to Ripon because I had a good rugby team. And I thought I might still be able to get home and play for Normanton, and clinging on to the fact I might possibly got a gig semi-pro somewhere. And then I put south of England for my second one, and I put my third one for Cyprus because I had a posting in Cyprus, and they sent me to Germany. so I was fuming. Got sent to Germany, absolutely hated it. And it just went from bad to worse.
Were you getting into a lot of bother? Could you settle into army life or not at all?
No. I did a stint in the I did a stint in Glasshouse, a month in Glasshouse, which is
What's that?
Army jail.
For what?
There was a kid down our corridor. When you're in army, when you're in the Royal Engineers, you can go for your phase 2 training, which is your trade training, and then you can come back later and do an advanced course on it. So there was a kid that had come back, and he was just like a bully. And he lived on our corridor. We were in rooms of 4. He had his own single man bunk, but he was the same rank as us, and he used to pick on us really. And one night he'd give one at lads a clout, and I just stuck my nose in, and then he went typical bully, went and told tale, so I ended up getting in trouble for it. And then from there, when I got posted to Germany, it was just the same in Germany. Because I weren't enjoying the life in general, I was just going out on a week and getting pissed up. We used to be able to get 3 bottles of wine from the NAFI, which is the online shop. 3 bottles of wine, €10. So we'd flatten them before we'd go into town, and then we'd just be at it in town.
Or just fighting with locals?
Quite often, yeah.
When you say you stuck your nose in, what do you mean?
I suppose I was sticking up for one at lads.
You chinned him.
Yeah. It was probably worse than it was because I went into his room. So he. But
Just dead down swinging?
How does military prison compare? Well, I'm guessing you haven't been to a normal prison, but what's military prison like?
it was just really. If you imagine, you've done a bit, haven't you?
Not in prison, but I was in military for 5 years. Yeah.
You Navy.
Yeah.
So you imagine your basic training. Army basic training were pretty strict, so it was probably just another level of that, where they were just really strict.
Just still having to do your daily stuff, fold your clothes, iron all shit.
But they'd come in. You think of your basic training where they'd come in and they'd maybe pick you up on your bedding not being right or your socks not being folded properly. That was just an extreme level of that. They'd be round inspecting twice a day, chucking your stuff, just being arseholes really. So that was that.
And what's going through your brain there? So you're obviously not settling into army life. What are your choices? Are you toying? You brought up rugby league there. Is there still a desire and a dream and an aspiration to want to go professional? Are you even thinking about that at the time?
I always had in my mind that if I stayed in the UK, I could maybe get a semi-pro gig. So that was my plan. And when I was based in Chatham in Kent, I could come home on a weekend and I could play for Normanton. But I was never really going to get a fair crack because when I was playing for Normanton, I was playing for the second team when I was coming home. So it was still more of a hobby then. But then when I got out of the army at 21, I got a trial at Hunslet. They said I weren't good enough. In fact, no, I went to Wakefield first. They were under 23s, and I were 21 at the time. No, it were under 21s. I was 21 at the time, and if I weren't getting a full-time contract, then that were me done because I'd have been too old the following year. There was a guy called Shane McNally coaching at the time, and he just said that I weren't going to get a full-time contract, which was fair enough. So then I got a trial at Hunslet. A bloke called Billy Conway arranged this all the time for me as well. He got me a trial at Wakefield. He got me a trial at Hunslet. Hunslet coach said that I weren't good enough and I'd never play that level. And then I kept going back to Normanton all the time, and then I got a trial at Doncaster. And it was just by luck, really, that a kid...
Who were in charge of Donny at town? It's Singe?
Singe, yeah. So he was a wild card as well. That was good fun. But they used the Northern Rail Cup at the time to give me a trial. And I did well, but they'll play me in halves, and they had 2 really experienced halves. So when the league came around, I was just going to get pushed aside or waiting for a injury or whatever. But I think it was the week of the season starting, the fullback quit. He just said, I'm sacking it off. so they were in a bit of a predicament really. What can they do? And he just asked if I'd play fullback for him, and then that's where my career started. Then, so I was fortunate in that sense that I got a break. That was 2005, and then I had a good year and played against Hull KR a couple of times, and then they signed me.
Did your mindset change then? Did you lean into being more a professional then when you started getting a bit of a break? What was?
Not really. I was still. One thing I always struggled with throughout my career until probably around about 2011-12, I could never separate Ben from Normie to Ben the professional athlete. I always struggled with that. I didn't really see myself as anything other than just Ben from Normanton really, and my behaviours represented that, and obviously I had a few issues along the way, but everything unfolded to a point where I then went on and had a decent career really. So
Before we get into the issues that you had from being Ben from Normie whilst you were trying to be a professional, what year did you leave military?
2004, middle of 2004.
Did you do any deployments or did you?
I went to Iraq. Yeah, I went to Iraq. I did a stint in Iraq.
Nice. How was that?
It was scary, but I didn't see anything major. There were no close quarter battles or anything like that from my end. But I think I was probably 19 when we went there. In fact, I remember, obviously, September 11th just passed. I remember exactly where I was when that happened. I was in my second phase of training. We went down to like community room in the morning, and it were all on news and whatnot then. And I was thinking at that point, I wonder if I might get sent. And it weren't until probably 2 years later, I think it was 2003, I went to Iraq. It was just before the Gulf. We went in before the guns and missiles started flying.
So what were your mission then going over there?
We were just there to help. We had the squadron in Germany. We had they were called amphibious. It was an amphibious engineer squadron. So they had these big, they call them M3 rigs. So they can drive on road, but they can open up on water, and you can drive across them. You can make a bridge, or you can ferry things across on them. So our role as a squadron were to provide that, and we provided some support for the Marines really to do water crossings, so they could go in and do all the frontline fighting. But we weren't there too long. Spent a lot of the time on Basra Airport, just waiting really for jobs to go out and pick stuff up or stores up or whatever. So I think the closest I got to anything, well, we went to a river crossing where Marines were going across, and there were a Iraqi boat coming down river, and they sent a couple of not like short range missiles, if you like, what they could hold on the shoulder. Just sent them up and blasted them out of water, like, and then.
Just so I know, so obviously you boys have served. What's like the average age of some of these? Are they sending kids there, like 16, 17, 18-year-old lads who are just serving? Is there a specific age of these young lads that are there?
When I don't know what it like in Navy, but when I went through, there were a wide range. So the youngest in our basic training was a 16-year-old kid, but then we had an older fella in who were in his 30s or mid 30s. He would have joined. I remember his name, Rigby. His surname was Rigby, and he was mid 30s. He'd come from. He would have joined, and I'm just like, why would he be here? Why would he want to come and join army at 30 odd if you got a trade behind you? And
It's like a midlife crisis, isn't it?
Well, I remember
Maybe so, yeah.
I remember at school where they'd come in and sort of try and recruit.
Yeah.
Is it a fair point now? Kids, surely now we had the discussion at the coffee shop there. Surely kids, is the armed forces as strong as it used to be? Are people still signing up like they used to?
I reckon the training's. I've not spoke in depth with many folks in military to a level enough to fully understand, but I'm aware it's becoming a lot easier to get through the training, and they're a lot more softer on them. So it's not a good sign, is it? Really, you want men coming in there who are going to be able to.
Like Ellis dove deeper then. Before we dive into rugby career, the catalyst that got you out. Had you made the decision that I want to leave, and you were just being a nuisance to get out?
I got thrown out. Yeah, so I got thrown when I was in Germany. We'd go out on a weekend, like I said, a bit of bother and whatnot. We'd sometimes fight amongst each other, lads from different squadrons. And I got put on what's called a 3-month warning order after one particular issue. So you get put on a 3-month warning order, then they move you to a different squadron, so you're away from your current environment, if you like. It's like they're trying to pull you out of your environment, see if that might change things. But one of my best mates from school were in the squadron that I got moved to, and we were thick as thieves when we were kids anyway. We used to hang about together and and get up to all sorts when we were at home in Normanton. So
Who was that?
Jamie Davis is
Jamie
called.
Davis.
Yeah, so I got moved over to his block, and there were no real change. If anything, it probably got a little bit worse. So it just stopped showing up for work. And the thing for me was when I got told it was a 3-month warning order, and if I did anything wrong in that time, then they would just boot me out. So that was like, it sounds negative, but to me it was music to my ears because I didn't want to be there. So I stopped showing up for work. And then I got pulled in front of the CEO, and he just said that you know you've had enough chances, so we're sending you on your way. And that were it weren't it's not something I'm proud of getting discharged that way, but I got out of the army, which was what I wanted to do. And then on the back of that, I ended up having a 17-year rugby career. So it worked out eventually, but there were plenty more bumps in the road.
You played
the
a
way.
fair bit of sport within the Navy. I think you played a bit of rugby league. You'd obviously did your boxing. Were you never offered any sporting endeavour inside the armed forces?
I played regular. When we were in Chatham, we used to play almost every Wednesday. It'd be like an
Into services.
No, it was like you'd play against the Royal Engineer regiments, and then occasionally you'd play for the Royal Engineers, and you'd go to tournaments and play against other regiments.
What sort of were the physical games then?
It weren't too bad. There were some Fijian boys who were, you know, if you ran into one of them or if they ran into you. And I played one game for Army down at Aldershot. It was against, might begin at Hunslet Warriors or Hunslet Boys Club.
Is that the Challenge Cup that they
Yeah,
do?
it was a Challenge Cup game, yeah. But I were on bench. I got probably got about 20 minutes, got sin bin for 10. and then I didn't play for Army again after that. So
What the incident that got you the 3-month probation order?
we'd been scrapping with some lads from our camp, and we'd ended up in their block, or I'd ended up in their block. And lad who, I don't know if he'd knuckled me in town or whatever, but I'd found out where his room was, gone round, he weren't there, so I just turned his room upside down. Just being a nuisance. But honestly, when I look back at my life in the army, as much as I hated it when I was there, I had some fun just doing what lads do, really. There's definitely no, I'm not proud of the way I got discharged, but my life worked out for the better on the back of it.
Any police ever get involved in any ruckuses on base? Because whenever we had any fights on base, like with any lads, it were always military police coming in and giving you shit.
No, you just get
keep
pulled.
it inside.
Yeah, we got pulled into the after that particular one when I got put on a 3-month warning order. They have like it's like a mini police station on camp. Ours were right near the gate.
Yeah.
Guard room. So you just get pulled in there and get kept in there for a bit while they dealt with it and did the little investigation or whatever. But it never got to the level of apart from when I had my court martial and I had to spend a bit of time in Colchester. It never left camp really. They kept it in house, which is, I think that's probably the best way to deal with it really.
Yeah.
Unless it's something worthy of escalating any further. So yeah, fun and games in Germany.
When you look back to your rugby league career, then we'll get into some current topics. What are some highlights? I know there might be some boys watching who aren't rugby league enthusiasts or fans. What were some of your highlights from your rugby league career?
Probably the biggest one were getting promoted to Super League from the National League, and that was probably 18 months after getting out of the army. So going from getting out of the army and then having a year semi-pro, and then the following year playing. I had a year at Doncaster 2005. The second year were my first full-time contract, $8,000 a year full-time contract at Hull KR, and then we got promoted to Super League that year. So within the space of 2 years, I'd gone from getting kicked out of the army to playing Super League.
Did you say $8,000 a year?
8.
Are you working alongside this then?
No, $8,000 a year.
How are you surviving off that?
Well, it was $8,000 a year. That was the base salary when I started, and my deal at the time was because I was somewhat an unknown. I'd come through at Doncaster out of nowhere. I had a couple of good games against Hull KR, so they signed me $8,000 a year. That was my salary. Then it was £250 a win. That year we smacked everybody. I think we won 26 games that year. But if after 10 games, I think it increased to a $10,000 salary, and after 15 games, it increased to a $12,000 salary. And then if we got promoted to Super League, my wage doubled then. So, but my first year in Super League were only $24,000. with bonuses on top.
Yeah.
But I was just happy for the opportunity. I was just doing something that I always wanted to do when I was younger, but probably weren't as committed, or maybe even as determined.
What do you put down to being such a fan favourite OKR?
Just effort, definitely not skill.
Just working hard.
Yeah, just effort based. I think now I live over in Hull, or live over that way. I know what it's like a totally working class, a bit like living around here, really. Just working class area. And I think everybody like to, particularly from an OKR perspective, they've had the glory years in the past, but up until recent years, I mean, they're doing really well this year. They've always been a team that's just never quite, won a cup or whatever. Yeah, we got promoted in 2006, but then we got relegated in 2016 and then back up again. But they've never really got close. We got to Wembley in 2015, got tanked 50-0. Then they just got there and got beat by Golden Point. So the fans have always appreciated, from my experience, players who were just willing to have a crack. You didn't have to be the superstar of the team, but as long as you were putting effort in each week, they'd warm to you. You could make a few errors. You could, whatever. Majority of fans would just love to see you having a crack for the shirt. And I think that's why I had a really good relationship with them, because I were never the most skillful in my career. I never did anything really spectacular. But I always worked hard, and there was always a bit of fight in me. That's probably what carried me through my career, really.
2015 there, Challenge Cup. Dig deep into this. Like, how hard is it not to be picked for that?
That were awful, that. Cause in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm sure I got man at match week before, or I had a really good performance week before, but I didn't play in the semi. I can't remember why I didn't play in the semi. I don't know if I didn't get picked or I was injured or whatever, but I didn't play in the semi. But then there were a week or two in between that where I'd played and played all right, and then I just didn't get picked. And I remember Chesney saying to me, it was a build up to the cup final week. On Monday we had a press conference to do at Doncaster Racecourse for some reason. I don't know why we were there. So I'm stood there there's me, Chesney, I don't know if it was Tom Briscoe and Brian McDermott from Leeds. But there were me and Chesney, and there were Brian McDermott and a Leeds player. Stood by trophy and all this. This were on the Monday, and we'd played the weekend before, had a decent game. And after we left, we were walking out of Donny Racecourse, and I said, I'm in this week. I walk, so just in my mind, I'm thinking I might not get picked here. Didn't play in semi. I wouldn't say I was free. I would have expected to be in the team somewhere, but
At least be a squad member.
Yeah, I just had this doubt. And he said, I'm not sure yet. He said, I'm still undecided. He was choosing between me and Kieran Dixon. And Dicko, on his day, he could be electrifying, so that were fair enough. And then I spoke to him I think it was the Tuesday morning before training. I rang him. And I said, before I come to training, 'cause I'm assuming you're going to be picking team today or whatever, am I in or not? And he said, no, I've slept on it and thought about it. I'm going to go with Dicko because he could be a potential match winner for us. And I understood it to some degree, because I know he had that about him where he could come up with something out of nothing. But Chesney always said he'd pick his team based on his best defensive team, and I think I had Dicko covered in that area. But that were his excuse for picking him over me anyway, and I just said, well, I better not come in today, because I was seething. A lot of it were emotionally about, I've been at club this long, and we might not get a chance to do this again, and I never got a chance to go there again anyway. So I went for a walk with Claire that morning, and we went down Canal to Ferryboat, had a few drinks, and then I went back in the following day, and I just did as best as I could for the team, really, just to be as positive. Hard, mate, honestly, really hard to try and keep a smile on your face when you're that deflated. And then I was 18th man, so you get to go out with team, do all warm up and all the rest of it, but you're not getting a piece of cake afterwards. So
You've been competitive person. Is that tough for you?
It were hard, mate. Yeah, it were hard to take that. All lads enjoying walking out at Wembley, having the photos took, and all excited, and it were nice to be there. But there were just something missing. Obviously, I weren't going to play, so it were tough.
What would you say the highlight of your rugby league career has been?
I played for England. I played with Zach Hardacre actually for England Knights, which were bizarre really, because at the time I got picked for them I was 30, and England Knights is predominantly young talented players coming through who can potentially kick on to England squad. And there I was, got picked for the England squad for World Cup in 2013, I think it was. And I was playing for Wakefield at the time, and we got knocked out. I don't know if we made playoffs that year actually. But there were me, Rangy Chase, and a couple of other lads. We were training for a couple of weeks before the rest of the squad came in. So I had a bit of time with England squad, and then McNamara said to me a week or two before, he said, "Look, you're not going to be in the final 24-man squad or whatever it is, but I want you to play for Knights, because if we have an injury to any of us wingers," I think it was McGillivray and it might have been Briscoe and Ryan Hall. He said, "If we have any injury to any of them two boys, you'll be in." So I got to play for England Knights. Played against Samoa at Salford and scored a try. So that was quite nice to pull an England shirt on. And then after that, at the time I was at Wakefield, but then after that I got sold back to Hull KR because Wakefield were in a bit of financial trouble. And after that I didn't do anything spectacular after that. My career probably fizzled out after then, really.
How long has it been since you played rugby?
I played for Donny last year.
Did you? How old are you now?
40.
Fucking hell. How did body feel after that?
Well, I retired in 2019 at York, got an ACL injury, had to get it reconstructed, and then I had a full year out. In fact, I was out until 2021. I got a phone call from Sam Smeaton at Doncaster. He said we've been struggling with, because all these COVID rules were in place at the time, and he said we've been struggling with injuries and people can't play because of COVID protocols and all that. We're a bit short. Can you come and help us out at back end of the year? And I was chomping at bit. I couldn't wait. I thought, wow, brilliant! Like, just get another crack. I thought I was done. And Donny's where I started. They were playing at a better stadium, albeit this time at Eco Power Stadium. I thought, yeah, I'd love to get amongst that. So I went there, finished that year off with them, signed again to play in 2022. I would have been approaching 39. And then Fordy rang me from York. He said, Brett Delaney is going to Hull KR as assistant coach. Can you come in? Would you be willing to come in at the end of the year? And I said, that's fine. And then conversation escalated. He said, well, I'm going to need somebody now to end of this year. And I said, well, I'll come, but as long as it's an 18-month deal. So it was July 2022 I finished playing. And then I signed at York as assistant coach. And then Fordy fucked off to Wakefield at the end of that year, and I was left in limbo. So, which, good on him. He had an opportunity to go to a Super League club, and the chairman at York and Fordy didn't really see eye to eye. And then I just said to the chairman, where's that leave me? He said, I want somebody more experienced. If he wants to keep you on, that's fine. If not, then I'll help you find another club. And I'm like, no, mate, I've got a contract till November next year, so they had to honour.
How long you been playing competitive rugby for then?
Started when I was about 9. 8 to 9 year old.
Be honest now, at 40, how does your body feel overall?
Feels good now. Feels good. If I were playing rugby now, I'd be fucked, because it's a different kind of... I do a lot of fitness stuff now, which is totally different. A lot of people, oh, you're fitter than when you were playing, and I probably am cardio-wise and endurance-wise. But as soon as you start getting it, it's like probably like with boxing. As soon as somebody starts to punch you when you've been out for a while, it hurts more until you get conditioned to it again. And rugby's no different. I remember when I went back to Donny after the first training session back, we'd only done a little bit of contact work, and I was sore as fuck for the following 2 days.
So your age is clearly getting to you then. What the fuck's possessing you to be doing these 100-mile runs and shit?
Well, I'm not doing 100 mile this time. I did that in... I did the 100 mile actually 12 months after my ACL reconstruction, which
No
was
way.
fucking... but yeah, that was just... I think a lot of it for me, now I've finished playing rugby, or when I've not got any competition in my life, a lot of it is just to keep a focus and just keep myself sane, really. I know if I miss 2 or 3 days of training or don't do anything for that period of time, I start getting a bit ratty, a bit arsey.
Yeah.
But I also find with my training, if I've got something to focus on, it just gives me a better...
I've always thought this you though. Why there's such extreme endeavours? Do you just like to suffer? Is there something in your head that you're
I
trying
don't
to
know.
overcome? What is
No,
it?
I just think I like the idea of doing things that most other people would think is a bit weird or a bit too much or whatever. For me, it's just a feeling of just doing what other people are not willing to do and just seeing how far you can push yourself. Really, I do get satisfaction out of that. I'm probably in the best shape physically I've ever been in, but I'm not really asked about how I look. I'm more focused on the challenge and what I've got to do to try and overcome certain things.
Would you ever want to do like a long endurance event? Because Luke Kelly jumped on one of yours, didn't he, when you did the Wolds
Yeah.
Way?
He didn't complete it, did he?
No, I think did he get like 40 mile in or
He
whatever?
fucking
it was?
put a good stint in, mate,
Yeah.
to be fair, and he hadn't. I think with anything like that, if you've got to be conditioned to some degree. It's like this next one we're doing at end of month. There's an 170-mile bike ride, and furthest I've rode is about fucking 8 miles to work. But for me, a lot of it is what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
And I go out running. I did a run yesterday. I never wear headphones. Just like me and my own thoughts, and probably have a few arguments with myself and a few when that voice is creeping in, or just walk now, or fuck it, just knock your Strava off and just whatever. I like to have them little battles.
Do you listen? Do you ever listen to that voice though, or do you just fuck it straight off and be like, nah, I'm
No,
not
yeah,
stopping?
100%. Yeah, occasionally there's times where like it's as though your body just can't run, can't move my legs quick enough, so you have to stop. But that 100-mile one was bad, wasn't it? Before
We saw that. I think it weren't on to where we got to. We got to one of the stops where
They were on to.
where the younger academy boys stopped running with you, and I remember seeing you. I were in car with Claire, and you just sort of hunched over on the boot with this red jacket on, and you were like divering a little bit. I'm like, how the fuck is he gonna complete another? I think we were like,
Did you come with me after that part?
yeah, I put a big stint in, mate. Don't worry about it.
How big?
It's fucking not a long. When he says I ain't conditioned, probably at that point I probably knocked bodybuilding on the head and I weren't doing any running, but I knew
I needed so much.
he just needed something to get him going, and,
Yeah.
and once he got going and getting back through gears, he revved on and finished it. But that were a suffering
That were hard.
adventure. That one, that were just. So I don't know. There is you'll know more than me that when you stop for like a bit of food and whatever you're doing there, it must be hard to get the body back going because all that lactic kicks back in,
And that's what I've learned from that. The longer you stop,
Yeah.
the harder it is to get going again. If I don't know if you remember, I can remember it quite clearly. When we got going from Hornsey, we went down to the front, and then we were coming back up that road past the graveyard, and then we went onto some country roads, and it probably took me about 15-20 minutes to feel like I could move my legs properly again. Just took ages to get back into it. So now if I ever do any kind of endurance stuff, I'll try and not sit still.
Yeah, keep walking.
Yeah,
and do
or
something.
just try and keep moving, because that's what fucks you up. Well, that's from my
We've
experience.
never dissected and I don't want to dive mega deep into the network marketing days, but how hard were it for you when we lost the Herbalife wage? So it were a big income to lose that one.
Yeah, well, yeah. It were a kicking knackers, but it's like a lot of things throughout my career as earning money. My incomes have been fucking all over the place, up and down, and not a lot, and I've had to adjust a lot of time. But I've always managed to kind of live to the circumstances. It's like I've never struggled. I've always found a different way. So even though that were a lot of money that we were losing there, and it were a kicking bollocks because we thought the other one were going to go on and probably
Out earn it.
yeah, that's probably what were in our minds of it. But I think just knowing what we know now, or certainly knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have changed over. Probably got a bit too big for my boots. My first venture into any kind of business, even though a lot of people look at network marketing and frown. I think that's not a business; it's a fucking pyramid scheme or whatever people come up with. But ultimately, it's a low cost business opportunity with minimal overhead costs in it. That's the top.
I've learned all my skill set from them
Yeah.
years there, 100%.
But with that, to get to that level we got to with that in such a short period of time, really, they were pretty impressive. And then I think we were probably just a bit naive to think that we could go and do the same again with a different company. Not knowing what I know now, it was like just the volume that were based around the amount of products that were moving with Herbalife compared to a box of coffee.
Yeah.
The volume attached to it in terms of
I remember
revenue.
getting the letter and where I was like, what the fuck?
What, the letter that said
That's you.
That's
That's
you
you.
done.
Fucking finished, mate. Bye bye to all you've built, and your income's gone.
and what was the wage you were getting then?
Fucking hell, it was substantial, wasn't it? Some months, mate.
I think at the time I got pulled,
it was just a termination, mate. It wasn't even like they were
No warning.
email I got.
I got a letter through post. I just got a new house at the time. We were at Lakeview in Ponte. I was just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, just gone, mate. Boom.
Which is bizarre, really, because it's like if you had a business interest. This is the one thing I don't necessarily like about network marketing is that if you're with a company, it's not necessarily the company that's got the problem. It's the people who like signed you up, if you like,
Yeah.
because they're probably worried that you might go off putting your focus elsewhere, which might ultimately take money out of their pocket. It's
Yeah,
it can
absolutely.
get the thing with network marketing for me is a lot of people get greedy.
Mate, there were people getting paid off left, right, and centre when we look back.
You were
wasn't
getting
there?
fucking-
Yeah, we're getting paid off to do this and
Not-
paid off to do this.
do
mate.
thi- don't
it's
do
proper
this.
fucking mad, mate.
What do you mean paid off as in don't involve yourself in that product and I'll give you some cash?
Oh, don't put order through here and we'll give you. It's complicated to try and address it on this, but
Yeah.
there were, it
fiddle.
weren't. There's lots of fiddles going on.
And it's typically by the folk who are making the decent money already. Yeah. If you just don't put that order in this month, that means that'll roll up to us and you'll get fucking. We'll give you $3,000 or whatever it is, just not to put these orders in. It works. I was doing a lot of volume, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And basically, without getting into too much depth of it, you worked 3 levels deep with Herbalife, and I were on the people who brought Josh in. I were on their 3rd level. So what happened below that 3rd level, they didn't see none of it. But if he didn't put orders in, it all bumped up. So they got all that commissionable volume then.
We're naive kids as well, and I were definitely fucking.
Yeah.
I didn't know about business at that time.
Is that when you two met doing network marketing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, yeah.
Ben got me serious about it. I just didn't even know what we were doing at the time, and he just got me serious, and then we built a friendship from that and just fucking rolled it out, didn't we? That pretty much.
Yeah.
Was that 10 years ago?
2011, 12, wasn't it? Yeah. The thing I really loved about network marketing was and it sounds fucking cheesy this, but that was the turning point of my rugby career and probably my life really. I found personal development, reading books, listening to audios, things that I would have originally listened to, but if somebody had them on in the car or in the background, I'd be like, what the fuck's that they're listening to? But I immersed myself in it and I bought right into the whole personal development thing. And my mindset just changed to a lot of things, really. In particular, about how you view things, how you perceive things, and conduct, how you conduct yourself, and even started fucking dressing smarter, wearing suit pants and a shirt and stuff like that a bit more often. And I bought right into it, and it was definitely a turning point in my life with network marketing stuff.
I advise it to anyone, me. Like, it's frowned upon his network marketing for sure, because people like Ben said there see it as a pyramid scheme. But when you're a young lad there, what network marketing is going to allow you to do, or any form of marketing, is have a lesson in personal development, and that's the crucial part to it. It's like when you come through it, it's not just sales. Yeah. You have to be strong in multiple subject matters. Like, I used to be scared to death of public speaking, mate, or speaking in public. It used to scare me to death. But it made you do certain things that you wouldn't necessarily do. And if it weren't for that, I'd probably still be working a lot late in Sports Centre and never sort of have that, what's possible, because you're getting around people there who have built businesses, have done things. We got access to a lot of people, didn't we? Even with the Organo team, you're getting to meet people you'd probably. I got to visit places I'd never visit and meet people that a lad from Casa never get those connections and possible. I do feel. I don't know if network marketing still is as strong as it is now with how powerful social media's got. Remember when we started, mate, we were still doing physical events. People would come down every Wednesday and see the thing. I think the younger generation now probably wouldn't be as receptive or probably buy into it. Everyone wants it to be done on the phone now. So with that, there's been the rise of other things like AI, affiliate marketing and all stuff like that. But just to piggyback off what Ben says then, for me, it were the personal development. That was the main thing. You're getting introduced to people like Jim Rohn, and he were a big leader there. One, and I can't remember some of the old other school people that we'd read about, Think and Grow, which are probably more Organo, but you're getting this information. Working class lads would never have got that insight, yes, you can find it on YouTube, but I weren't searching for stuff like that, so I never would have got that outlet.
Well, even with that, I went through my rugby career without getting anything. I remember one time Hull KR got some sports psychologists in, which is kind of a different twist on it, but in terms of working on your mentality and your mindset. But through anything else that I've experienced, I've never seen it promoted anywhere. Like in a normal working job, for example, or and it's something I'm big on now. And now with podcasts and YouTube and all this stuff, Spotify and whatnot, you can get access to all of it. And if you can find the right content, it can genuinely change your life. That's my view on it all.
I feel what's happened there, though, is I try and get this into you, and we have these discussions that as that space has grown, and it has grown, you've got everyone now who's a coach, a guru, X, Y, and Z. You can be lost in that as well. So like, I want to sort of like dissect that. The information now is ready, available. You can read about it. You can listen to it on podcasts. You can take courses. You can do everything. But I think as we were doing it, we were naturally listening to it and implementing it straight away. And that needs to be a message for people who are going on a personal development journey. That the implementation is the key. You can't just be lost in personal development. We used to say that all the time, didn't we? You can just be like, if you're doing all that personal development but then not executing it into your life, it don't matter. So you need to there needs to be a balance struck. I find a lot of people now who I meet through business and through work and just in general life, they're just obsessed with that. We talk about it with morning routine. Everyone wants to get that perfect. And for me, it's finding a balance. Is that a fair point to say that there needs to be implemented?
Yeah, 100%. And I think personal development as well, you can, if you try, you can be picking bits from everywhere, gathering bits of information. But I think if you are going to go down a route of stepping into any kind of business, find somebody in that particular space that you can. I mean, we dived into Grant Cardone at one bit. Can you remember?
Sales focused.
Because obviously everything with marketing or business, you've got to do some selling, haven't you? In fact, one of his best books that I read was Sell or Be Sold, and that just teaches you about how everything in life is. You've got to be a salesman to some degree, whether you're trying to get a girl or whether you're trying to I don't know, sell a product to somebody or whatever it is, or you're trying to sell yourself an interview or whatever. But just find somebody in the area that you're looking to excel in and just fucking dive into them. And I think he was great, Grant Cardone, for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if your personal development journey started at like 30 when you started doing all this network marketing, is that when Ben from Normanton crept back inside and you changed?
Ben from Normanton probably started to disappear and probably got a little bit of jip from some of my mates as well. Oh, you've changed.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking yeah, good job, really.
Yeah,
That was,
because
that was my thing, yeah.
Josh and when we had Zach on pod were telling us some crazy stories about you fucking spear tackling Christmas trees, causing havoc on nights out.
I've still, there will always
That's
be,
still it. That's
yeah,
still in you.
Yeah,
That's
it is,
still
yeah, but it's probably just
Christmas times and that only.
yeah. Well, do you know what? I've not really drank. I've not really done any boozing for. Claire organised a surprise party for my 40th. I got pissed then, and I haven't really bothered since. It just doesn't interest me anymore, and I know that there's more chance of that side of me coming out if I am intoxicated or whatever. So, and I do enjoy living a relatively clean life now. I know we were talking about the heavy metal stuff before, detoxing and all that, but everything I do now, whether I'm using fucking roll-on deodorants, what I've got no chemicals in.
I'm on this hype now, though. I went to
yeah.
London
I think
Bar
we all
after
are
you.
now.
Yeah, but if you think about, and again, this is probably just something that comes with maturity or the surroundings that you find yourself in. Just trying to lead a cleaner life and understanding. One thing I've learnt over the last few years is that not everything that's promoted and pushed on us is in his best interests. Whether it's food, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's whatever it might be, it's not in our best interests all the time. A lot of it is purely pushed on us for other people's profit. So looking at alternative ways of eating, alternative ways of washing yourself, and all that kind of stuff is going to be beneficial for you in the longer term.
Have you ever got into any? You want to say your
I was just going to say, gives a bit of an insight of like the stuff that you're using that's different. Like obviously that you just said then the deodorant that's, I've got a spray one, but it literally smells enough and it just stops you sweating. It's got no bad chemicals in it. I've got the soap from Holland and Barrett.
Well, tell me about the spray one, because I'm using this fucking roll. It's like a wax, and the sweat just drips around. It comes around it. It smells all right. It's Dr. Squatch. I don't know if you've ever looked
I'm
at
using
that
that natural spray you bought from.
That, yeah. I just went to Holland and Barrett. There's a full store that's got everything that's metals free, and it's just or whatever you class it as, and it's got the soap, sprays, deodorants, everything. So I just rinsed that.
Yeah, well, I'll get in there and look at that then, because last time I got an order from Dr. Squatch, I spent 70 quid on fucking 11 bars of soap.
Yeah, I think that was free.
I've seen
free
that
bars
one on
for a fiver,
social
that
media, that the one that shows you them cutting it all and doing.
It's good. I mean, it's decent. It's all. There's no shite in it. There's no chemicals in it or anything. It's like with sun cream now. When we go on holiday, I won't put any sun cream on.
What do you wear then, protection wise? Do you just
bit
wear?
fucking
If
blistered.
if I'm getting warm, I'll just go under umbrella.
Yeah,
I'll
but
just
you
go in
just
shade.
use your head.
Yeah, and I don't sit out in it just giving it all this. I'm happy to sit under a brolly and just.
I see Ellis has been like fucking coconut oil, man, and just like
Leather
carrot
it up.
oil and just.
Oh yeah, carrot oil is a
You can get some with the sun creams. You can get, they call them mineral sun creams, and it don't absorb into your skin, but you put it on and it's just like fucking putting white paint on.
What about moisturiser? You know, like I've got the Vaseline tinted moisturiser. It's not tinted actually.
Tinted, I
No,
think.
wait. I've done myself dirty there. Just the scented one.
I don't use moisturiser.
Because that absorbs straight into it. My skin's dry as
Just
fuck.
a bit of
though.
coconut oil, mate.
What is pure coconut
That's
oil?
what I just use. Yeah.
I'd be shiny as fuck though.
Yeah, just make sure it's rubbed in. I put it on this morning.
You put coconut oil on.
Yeah.
Yay.
No, because I'm like you, mate. Fucking, I look about 47. You know what I mean?
Wait, what?
That one about me and him, fucking both. Me and him both, granddad face. Used to always call me that. But I've never been one to use fucking. I don't even use hair stuff anymore. I don't give a fuck about all like that, mate.
You look like you've done your hair to me today.
A bit of coconut oil in it. Come smell it. But what I will ask you, so we've come to end of those network marketing days. There, you've got married. What age did you get married?
2016, so I would have been 31.
31. So then you bring a family into equation. Is this when you start? Let's try and dig into this. Is this when you start trying to understand society a bit more and how things are played out? Because you've got to think about bringing kids up into the society. Is that a fair point to say? That's when you start questioning things a bit more. Have you always questioned stuff?
Well, I've always been. What's the word I'm looking for?
Tinfoiler.
No, not necessarily always been a tinfoiler. I've probably always been a bit rebellious in terms of going against the grain with things. I mean, even at school, I'd find myself outside the classroom for being disruptive or whatever. I know that's kind of a different thing, but as I got older, I wouldn't say I became more. I'd heard of certain things, like, I mean, going back to probably 2014, 15, I did people talking about chemtrails, and I've always been an open book to stuff like that. I've got a couple of friends now. I've probably got these 3 friends now, and I can go on my phone on a morning and there's fucking 10 WhatsApp messages with TikTok videos about fucking flat Earth, chemtrails, aliens, fucking trannies, all this stuff. And I'm aware of everything, but I don't. When COVID were on and we were locked down, I was in the fucking rabbit holes deep.
Yeah.
Looking at satanic rituals and everything. I was deep into it. But I feel like I've now got an understanding of what I believe and what I think, and I try and keep it at arm's length now because it can consume you too much. And I've got like I say, I've got the kids at home. I'm quite busy in the gym, and I've got a life to live. You know what I mean? So even though I'm aware of it or my own beliefs and how I perceive things, I don't spend as much time delving into it too much now. But I would say I started becoming aware of things 2019, 2020 on a deeper level when all the COVID stuff came, and I was just like, fucking, this is what's going on here.
Did you get yourself involved in some of these marches? Were you?
I went to London. Yeah, I went down to London once. And this is how clear it is to me. We were in London. There must have been, I don't know. There must have been 100,000 plus people. A good stadiums full of people. And we were marching around London. There was traffic that couldn't get around. And we just walked. And if you're into that kind of thing, I would suggest anybody go and take part in a demonstration or a protest or whatever you want to call it.
I'm trying to get Ellis to run for councillor at the minute.
But the people that are there, everybody's just so positive in a weird way because they're all there for the same reasons. They believe that
Same cause.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that march?
That one were anti-lockdowns, and it might have been something to do with vaccines coming down, filtering down to younger age groups and all that.
He's
stuff.
boosted it a lot.
So, well,
I just wanted to go to a B for me, that's why. And I felt like shit.
Yeah, but
since
there were a means to a way there. Wink, wink.
Well, yeah, I found out after I could have just got a fake fucking COVID passport for about 70 quid, but I just jumped straight to it. I didn't think they'd be trying to kill it off.
Mate, I think a lot of people did, and I'm so, like, my missus works for NHS, and Claire, amount of time she was in like turmoil, really, I would say, because they were pushing it that heavy on the staff, and she knew, like, I'd be down rabbit holes, and I'm like, fucking no way I'm having it. Don't do it. And I was trying to tell her I was probably gobbing off a bit too much. When I look back now, I think probably a bit much that, but ultimately I was seeing what I was seeing and I was saying what I believed. I was probably just saying it out loud, and I'm glad I did. I stand by everything that I was spouting off about. I just aren't as asked about it now, because if people didn't want to do their own research, or if people didn't want to open their mind and think for themselves, then that's their.
If I
that's their
remember
choice.
rightly, did you lose?
I lost my job at OKR.
Yeah, you lost your job.
So this is an interesting one, this, and I still love OKR, by the way. Absolutely nothing against them. So I was coaching the academy and scholarship at Rovers when all this were going on. We were having to go in. The lads were having to put a mask on to go out onto the pitch. Then they could take the mask off on the pitch, and I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, can somebody just not see this is not normal? And I was still being outspoken about it. At the time, I was using Twitter. I don't have it anymore, but I was using Twitter. And I was sharing all this tinfoil hat stuff about potential vaccine damages and all this stuff. And it was the RFL that contacted Hull KR. Hull KR were trying to get an academy licence for the following year. They had to go through this licensing process. And I think the RFL basically said to Hull KR, right, next year, they kind of backed him into a... I got a £2 fine off RFL for having outspoken opinions about it all. And Hull KR were trying to get this academy licence. And at the time, I was a level 2 qualified coach. So they said to Hull KR, your coaches next year only to be level 3 qualified. And by the way, it takes 12 months to get that qualification.
Knowing full well.
Knowing full well I weren't going to get qualified in time. And they also came out with something like that it were a safeguarding issue. My views were a
Yeah,
safeguarding
because I said to you that I think we had the conversation that how they will have deemed that is that you'd be influencing lads to sort of be anti-vaccine or not follow guidelines.
Do you know what? My concerns were this has come out all way too quick. Why? Yeah, if they want to protect the vulnerable, get them vaccinated, all over 60s or whatever. But no way should it be coming down to fit and healthy young men. And I could see it coming down pipe, and eventually it did, didn't it? Eventually it came that way. And I was just a bit outspoken about it, and I spoke to Neil Udgell, chairman of Rovers. We're still good friends, and spoke to him about it, and he said, yeah, but sometimes you should just keep them opinions to yourself.
Play the game a bit.
And I get it to some degree, but it's like I like to think I've always had a decent moral compass, and if I've got out to say that I think is going to benefit people, then I'll say it. Not going out saying anything malicious, to just being willing to say what I believe, really. And it ended up costing me a job at Hull KR, and then I've not been involved in rugby league since. Oh, no, that's a lie. I went back to Doncaster, and Doncaster had to start chipping away at my RFL fine, because I weren't allowed back in rugby league until that was paid. So Donny came up with...
But did you just refuse to pay it?
Why should I?
It's
Not having a view or opinion. But Donny came to an agreement with the RFL.
See, that's how tight he is like me. That's what I'd have done. Just refuse
but
to
why-
pay
why-
it, and
Gotta
then
be done.
why should
other
I?
club's got to pay. I've got respect for that.
But imagine that, though, saying you can't get back involved in rugby league until that £2 fine's paid.
Mad.
It's ridiculous.
Just because my opinions don't match up with what they wanted to push.
Ellis is toying with moving to Warrington. Like his North Star. He feels
It's not my fucking North Star.
He feel like it's going to be a big change for him. He's going to become a better man and all stuff like this.
Probably
But
not even
Why
that.
Warrington?
His
My
missus
missus lives
there.
there.
He's going to have kids and whatnot like you. Just how
Recommend it, mate.
yeah.
mate.
So just how did that for two lads here? We're in his 30s now, haven't got kids. Does that change your life? Is that just
Your
a
whole
big?
perspective on your whole outlook on life just changes. Your priority is not you anymore. It's the kids, and that's another thing where I'm glad I went down all rabbit holes and looked at all that stuff now, because even with the stuff that's going on in schools now and all this gender stuff and all that, I've always got my eye on that, and in a way I'm kind of waiting for young'uns to come home from school and say, oh, the teachers have talked about this today, or we've got a boy in our school who was dressed as a girl or whatever, and I just don't really want my kids to be around that, because I don't think it's hard not to. We're in a society now where if you say stuff like I'm probably about to say, you're going to piss somebody off, which I don't really care. But as far as I'm concerned, there's only two genders, and if it's been promoted and pushed on children at such a young age that they can be who they want, they can be what they want, kids don't know unless it's been pushed upon them and kind of indoctrinated into them. as far as they know, they're just a little boy or a little girl. There were a guy in Hull recently pulled his daughter out of nursery. I think she was 4 or 5 year old, because there's a book in nursery what the kids have got access to called Grandad's Pride, and it's fair enough, yet inclusive. You know, people can be who they want. That's fine, but why does it need to be pushed on young children? Where there's in this book, there's men at what seems like pride parades dressed in bloody bondage gear and that in a kid's net. It's just not. I think it's just a bit weird. So. But again, I think all the COVID stuff that we went through, that made me more aware of everything. Every time I look at TV now, if I get a glimpse of anything on the news, I'm just constantly rolling my eyes, because I think once you see it, whatever it is, whether it's about the climate stuff, whether it's about viruses, whether it's about trans or whatever they're trying to push, you can fucking just see it a mile off. And it's just that programming. They're trying to program people into the acceptance of it being normal when a lot of it's just not normal.
How did you find the transition moving to Sunk Island? Was that a big one for you?
Love it, mate, yeah. At first, because we're so far out, I thought this might be a ball ache, this, but I'm just so glad we live where we live now. Especially if things progress further, where, you're looking at this 15-minute city stuff and all that stuff. If we're right out the way, I've just thought my polytunnel's just arrived.
What's
so
that?
Where I can grow all my own fucking veg.
Fuck me, not fucking around.
Yeah, so
Chickens have been savage, though, haven't they?
One of them has.
Yeah.
Well, I think we were just dead. I had about 5 last year, and then they all just went missing. So I think we had. But I used to let them roam about outside front of the house and everything. Then I got 2, and one of them's died, so I've only got 1 left. But
I'll have to pay a visit to Sunk Island, mate. You want to see it? It's fucking.
What is Sunk Island?
it's just basically on North Bank at River Humber. Years ago, probably a couple of centuries ago. Every time the tide came in and went back out, it started leaving this big sandbank, and then eventually it became part of mainland. It's interesting because all farmland around there is fertile as fuck. You know, when you drive through, say if you drive through Cass and rapeseed's out, the yellow, it's yellow, but you drive down there, it's like bright yellow. You can see it's a different kind of land that stuff's been grown in. But that's something I'd like. I won't say become fully self-sufficient and off-grid and all that. I'm not that far gone to think that that's something that I'm capable of doing. I know it's something that we can try and work towards. We've got our own tatties in ground at minute. We eat our own tatties now, so that's one step. We've got chickens where we can get the eggs. Got my polytunnel now, so I'll grow a bit more veg. I just like the idea of becoming as self-sufficient as possible, because if things come down the pipe, which I think potentially could do, then we're in a position where we're all right. And also knowing that the foods that you get from supermarkets and whatnot now, if it's just sprayed with that much shit.
In homegrown tomatoes are like 10 times more nutritional.
It's mental, mate, yeah.
If you grow them yourself than they are in supermarket.
And if you think about fruit that gets shipped in from abroad, how long's it in storage? They keep them in, I don't know if they keep them in, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing, hydrogen containers, basically, where they kind of keeps them fresh, but then when they come out, it's just not a natural process, is it?
Yeah. Jobs
We're around at, there's a fella who I train, he lives on Sunk Island as well. Me and Benny went round to his last week. He's got an apple tree in his back garden, a pear tree, and Benny's just picking it. And you can taste the difference to what you get from supermarket. There's a massive difference. So I'm kind of on that route now. We're trying to stay as chemical free as I can and eat as clean as I can, which is difficult.
Do you feel considerably different doing all that?
I just feel like at 40-year-old, my body's performing really well from a physical aspect. Considering the amount of knee injuries that I've had and operations I've had on my knees, I'm not getting no real issues, which I thought I might have been. Obviously, I'm not overweight or anything like that, so that helps. But I just think by trying to be as clean as you can, and I'm not stupid enough to think you'll totally get away from everything. But if you can take small steps to be as clean as you can around what you're putting on your body, in your body, then
I went down a rabbit hole recently of like, you'll know what parasites are, worms specifically. Just how many people's sort of digestive tract system is full of that, and that you can do a cleanse to sort of eliminate that.
Well, that's what all this heavy metal detoxing stuff can do as well. I don't know how much you've looked into it, but I was talking to Ellis before about like even things like this Whoop that I wear, the heart rate variability of mine since I've been heavy metals detoxing, that's increased, which is just a good sign of heart health and removing toxins from your body and resting heart rate coming right down. So I think that's a real all these heavy metals we've got in his body are really affecting us. And another thing that I dived into it for is I've got dementia on both sides of the family. My granddad recently died, and my nana on my other side's got it. And I think a lot of it is just from the chemicals that are in foods, in deodorants and all that kind of stuff. Whatever's getting dropped out of the sky, you know what I mean? So, so just trying to be as clean as we can and doing them detoxes and eating as organic as we can, eating whole foods as much as we can.
You do much fasting?
I've not for the last 9-10 weeks. I got myself a coach who's been really good for me around nutrition, because my nutrition, I've never been. I won't say I've ever been overly particular with my nutrition. I've always fasted and just ate what I would deem as eating well. But now I'm kind of following his guidance, and I'm eating 4 times a day. I've dropped 3 kilos, which is bizarre, because I used to fast until midday and then I'd have like a shake and then an evening meal. But what I found, well, when I started eating the way that I'm structured now, is that I'm eating a lot smaller portions than I used to do on my evening meal. And I'm losing weight.
Do you feel though there that if he's setting your meal plan up to be fueled for the sessions, that you could be also training harder as well, so that's got more of a
100%.
calorie burn, not back
Well,
end?
I'm performing much better. I in the last couple of months I've pulled 200 kilo deadlift, which is a massive achievement for me. I've never got anywhere near that before. And then yesterday I ran a my personal best marathon, sub 4. So obviously the way that I'm fueling myself now, based on his guidance, and the way that I'm training, following his plan, is working pretty
Is
good.
he quite focused on plenty of carbohydrates in diet?
Yeah, but he's for me, he's an all right. The reason I started following him more, he ran it either around the same time as we did the 100, or just after, or just before. But he ran coast to coast, and I'm sure he did it in less than 48 hours.
He's quite stacked
he's
and
a
all, and
fucking
he's
big unit,
carries
yeah.
a lot of muscle in.
Yeah. But what his knowledge about training, performance, nutrition is just fucking mind blowing.
I think we need to get into something longer.
Yeah.
We do like a lot of the moving weights, CrossFit stuff, moving weights, high heart rate, but I've never got into anything just sort of long drawn out slogs like that.
What's longest you've done on your bike, your concept bike?
Probably 20k. No crazy.
I just can't run for shit. I went out on like a 4K run of a day. My feet, my Achilles, my knees.
Yeah, but it's
My
because
lungs.
your toes are like this. You need them.
I've been working on that.
Have you?
Yeah, like when I'm
I
like,
sent you those shoes the other day that'll like sit your
don't need to
feet.
get them, do you think?
A pair of these bad boys, mate.
What do you run in?
I've got-
Asics, old school.
No, I've got some Hoka. What's the name? Bondi Hoka, they're called. So the front, my toes used to I don't know if you remember when I did that big run, my toes were fucking, the blisters on the insides of my toes were horrific. But these, they open right up at front, so when your feet swell, they've got room to breathe still. And they're brilliant.
Tell Alice the story when we got into a bit of a ruckus at Heddon. Remember?
Headed.
We're at Heddon where you lived, with that bungalow when we had you had your part, we got rugby lads. And
Oh,
we were
me
like,
and you had a ruckus.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm
when
fucking
grappling
right.
turned bad, he stuck his 2 fingers up my nose, mate. I think it came out my eyeballs.
That was you, that being aggressive.
What it for?
It was. You were a
Mate,
big
what
strong
happened there?
bastard
This is how I see that night. He had like all his okay
It
mates
would
there.
have like a welcome. This is his new house garden party, and he's here trying to fucking take me head off.
What a
Geared up as well.
no.
20 stone.
No, I've never been 20 stone, but how I see this is like at the top of this garden, there were like a bit of astro.
Yeah.
And few beverages started going in, and there were an hot tub there, if I remember rightly. We were there with women as well. And like people just started wrestling periodically, like odd wrestle. Me and him had wrestling. Listen, how I remember it, I think I got him on his back. And he fucking stuck his fingers straight up my nose, mate. Old school grubby act, mate. One of the grubbiest acts I've ever seen. And then I think when we stood up, we just fucking got into it a bit. They went in, fucking party
Too
got him.
strong for me then.
Party got him.
Everybody like, Right, we're going to get off now then.
We turned round and I swear down, I think we ended up getting a bottle of gin and we sat in that greenhouse, woke up in it, didn't we?
next morning, there was a frigging T-shirt on next door neighbour's roof, bungalow.
You know, one of them where you're like, fuck, we probably overcooked it there and we just ruined party. But anyway.
Who would you say ruined it though? Because whenever Josh tells me that story, he blames it on you.
Probably me for chucking a punch. I shouldn't. Even if he stuck his fingers up, no, you shouldn't be chucking punches to your mate. Like,
I were wrestling with somebody else, I think. And then somehow you got involved.
Oh, so he'd got you when you were tired then?
Yeah, well, just like,
Yeah.
he probably thought, I'll have a piece of that. Started fucking squeezing me to death.
I bet that was after you'd just done a couple of jiu-jitsu sessions with me as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd just been choked out by you repeatedly for an hour. And I was like, I need some comeback. I need some vengeance.
You know, you say that you got into conspiracies after COVID and you don't dive too much into it right now. Is there any like conspiracies that you truly believe in that you've really studied that you could talk about?
Not really.
No.
I won't say there's anything that I've gone heavy on.
No.
But a couple that I think need looking at with more open mind is the World Trade Center stuff.
I've been into this deep for the last 3 days, mate.
You can't do it about that though now. I think it's never
Do you know
going to
what-
come
do you know
out.
Do you know what the worst thing about that for me is that the amount of people that died, I sometimes feel like it's disrespectful even thinking that could have possibly happened.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do look at the buildings, it's like explosions just going poof, poof, poof all the way down. And then that building 7 or whatever it was called, just like a controlled demolition, didn't
Mm-hmm.
even get touched. The fuck?
Yeah, but you know what happened the day before there, don't you? Or the week leading up to
What,
that.
the insurance policy
Well,
been taken?
no, if you research, see if you can find this, type in Donald Rumsfeld missing money day before 9/11.
I think I know
Trillions
what it
went
is, yeah,
missing,
yeah.
unaccounted for money. What? And then just the next day that happened. Listen, you could
It
say.
looked like a controlled demolition to me, mate.
Well, I was watching it yesterday. You definitely see the second. I definitely saw the second plane go in. You see it come from the right. This is how much of a rabbit hole I've been in. Because when it is 9/11 year, you forget the magnitude of that. You know, and you mentioned at the beginning of the pod that you remember where you were when that
Yeah.
happened. There's two events that's happened in my life that I've remembered. First one when Princess Diana dying in that crash,
Yeah.
and second one when 9/11. They're imprinted in my brain. I'll never forget those days where I was. I think it happened. It started happening about 8:20 their time, and when I got home from school, it were on TV, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And I'll always remember that. And
Mysteriously lost 2.3 trillion.
yeah, mate. So
disappeared.
day before 2.3 trillion. I don't even know how much money that is. It sounds like a fucking lot. Has gone missing, and then the trade center happens, where all your attention will go to just because as soon as there's a massive security risk like that, when you think you're living in a free world, everyone's focus went on to war, didn't it? Get some sort of revenge, protect us borders, security, X, Y, and Z. But you've got a point. It's like you want to understand what's going on in society, but because we have to be focused on his own life, making money, providing responsibilities, it's hard to have a full read on it because you would have to commit a big chunk of your day to having just a basic understanding. But then I say to you, well, how do you even make a difference then? What do you do? Because unless you go into these institutions and actually physically doing something, you can get the awareness out on social media, but that won't evoke a change in my behalf. Yes, it gets the general population to understand it and read it and might get into it, but the change, when does the change happen? What do you think? Like, if people get woken up to the fact that, hold on a minute, society as we know it is not in our favour, it's not fair, it could be a lot easier and better for everyone. I just don't see what happens.
I don't know. I think if people haven't become aware now of how corrupt the world is in particular politics and how the world is run, then I just don't think there's much hope for them kind of people. Coming
Have
to
you
the
ever
sense-
toyed
or,
with-
or even thinking about it? I'll tell you what I'm definitely not. So before anybody starts calling me out or any of you boys start laughing, I'm definitely not a flat earther. But I keep getting sent a lot of stuff about it now. I've got a couple of friends who are totally, and I'm just like, can't fucking get my head around this one. But when I think back to if you think back about everything now, like the programming, right from your school classroom days in geography or whatever, it was a globe in the classroom, or somebody had one, even whiskey cups in people's living rooms. It's a globe. So we've always been programmed to think that that's right. But knowing what we know now about how much governments have lied to us over the last few years, why why are you a weirdo for actually questioning and thinking that? If you can't, if somebody can't prove to you that it is round, why is it round? Oh well, because we've got a fucking globe in this classroom, or because NASA tells us it is, or because the government tells us it is. Well, have you ever been that high up enough to look down and have a look for yourself? It's just. So I'm always open to questioning and looking at certain things, and that one, like I said, I hadn't dived into it enough. I don't want to fucking get swallowed up in all that stuff. But
You went down rabbit hole of like Antarctica, didn't you, and all the debate.
the
with
ice
that.
wall and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
and possibly another fucking world
Human
behind
life,
it. So
yeah.
yeah. So you can go on forever, but I think it's good. I think it's healthy and good, in my opinion, to think about stuff like that, because then when other stuff does come at you, like this climate stuff and all that, like this fucking direct energy weapons and all this stuff that's going on at the minute, when you start to see that, you're then a little bit more, hang on a minute, what the fuck's going on here? Rather than, oh well, they told us that these fires have started because it's hot.
Did you see what happened? I said to you yesterday. What's Farage's first name?
Nigel.
Nigel Farage came out with the new regulations that are coming into play for homes to be net zero. So they have to be energy efficient to a certain level. If they're not energy efficient to a certain level, there's fines.
Can get
If you don't
jailed.
pay the fine, you do jail time. But what did I say to you? Who does this affect?
The poorer folks.
poor
Yeah.
folk.
But do you know, like, think about this. This is how backwards things is, right? So you've got that there. You can go to jail because your house isn't energy efficient. What the fuck? You can possibly do that. I know of 2 cases lately where paedophiles have been found with the most horrific, what you call it's on the devices,
Images and
images or whatever on the devices. They're getting 30-day rehabilitation courses, no jail time. But if you don't, if your house isn't energy efficient and you don't pay your fine, you're off to the slammer. What's going on?
It feeds into the idea then that the core of all this, they probably are all nonsense. And if they're not, my granddad's old school. He'd go wrong way. Like he'd have every person strung up like lamppost and that. He's old school in thinking, but surely no one can deem, doing stuff to kids and paedophile stuff, whatever you want to word it. Then no one surely feels that's right. That should be, to me, right at the very top of punishment. That if you're
100%.
doing stuff to vulnerable kids and your sexual desire is towards that of an infant or a child,
It's
then
fucked, mate.
then that should be severely punished by jail or just putting them in their own little deal or whatever.
Have you seen the thing around Sound of Freedom? What they're trying to do? The film. Have you not seen that? Sound of Freedom.
No.
Fucking
They've
hell,
stopped
I
on
thought
They've stopped viewing it at cinemas and stuff like that. Haven't they?
What is it? Yeah, in cinemas. It's
Yeah,
like been going
they're coming in
blackouts
saying
and
we
all
can't show it. It's not letting us film and stuff like that.
that. Well, it's available in UK now. So I watched it. We got it on a stick at home. We watched it. Picture were terrible, but it's all about human trafficking. Not just kids, but the story is based around 2 kids, a brother and a sister. And there's a guy called Tim Ballard from America. He used to be in CIA, and he got out because he were on the story behind it. I think he were on a mission to rescue these kids, and then they were just going to pull him out. And he was like to his missus, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Do I carry on doing this myself, or do I leave it?" And I got a well-paid job, and he decided he was going to quit the CIA and start doing this. And now he's doing it to a level where they're rescuing kids all over the world who have been kept in these rings and passed around and sold around and all. It's horrific, mate. But it's just highlighting a major problem. But again, it's like they want to fucking call it a conspiracy theory, or they want to, and it's based on a real life story. So
But imagine the worst case scenario there, though. Like just thinking about what you said, then that imagine if the elites and the core group who are in power are involved in this.
Well, look at
paedophile ring.
Epstein, mate.
I don't know
and
enough
that
about
full
all this. I
situation.
wish I knew more about this.
with the island,
I
Yeah, he
understand,
just
I
bought an
understand the
island.
basic thing, but I like a lot of influential people were visiting this island.
All of them. And the reason why he got killed, well, they said he killed himself, was because he was probably going to talk and say, well, all these, they found fucking flight records of everyone flying over.
yeah, loads of people.
They say
loads
Oprah's a
of
lot
big
to do with it as well, don't they?
Well, have you seen
Well,
that
Oprah's
stuff
to do
about
with Maui as
now?
well.
Well, Holmes has been filling me in on this.
She bought alt land and
Yeah,
was
but
trying to buy more. and
The,
shit.
the snapshot,
Why? Why?
Yeah, but the snapshot from the top. Well, I get why they'd want to buy out land. If you were a billionaire,
Yeah.
then you want to have control of who's there. You don't want any crime. So I sort of can understand that view. I'm not saying it's right, but I can understand what she's thinking. But the snapshot from either a drone or a satellite, wherever it might be,
Blue.
everything is torched, and her land is untouched. Where from what Holmes has been feeding me back, the phone lines went down and there were a lot of things that went wrong, so they couldn't, aid couldn't be, but there were fire service at hers and making sure all hers were protected. Like that.
It's mad, mate.
If that's a coincidence or not, like, come on.
If you look at it like this, and it's an horrible way to look at it, but this is probably how she's that rich and powerful.
She's got someone on hand at 24/7.
She wants something. How do I get that? You can't. It's owned by them. Fucking burn it, and I want it. That's just simple as that. She'll just be a cold-hearted savage who don't give a fuck about all these poor people. If I want it, I'm having it. Burn it. And if any, don't let any newspapers, any TV channels say anything else apart from there were a fucking heat-related fire. And if anybody starts making conspiracy, just shut it down on social media.
Which is what happens a lot with any amount of doctors and scientists coming out talking about the COVID stuff before. If they come out speaking against the narrative, what wanted to be portrayed to people, fucking censored, blocked, deleted, whatever. There's one in America. Just going back to COVID stuff, Dr. Peter McCulloch is one of the most peer-reviewed. He's done some of the most peer-reviewed studies ever, and he's talking about how it could potentially be an issue giving people these vaccines, and he's just fucking deleted and censored from everywhere. It's like, why? So I thought the science were questioning stuff and asking questions, but
Yeah, science to me is the pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
That's what you should be pursuing at all times. And I don't know enough about vaccines, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but
did you end up getting some? Because you were on fence at one point,
no,
weren't you?
I didn't get one.
I regret getting them now. I've had 3.
3.
Triple boosted.
I've not felt right since. I'm not even joking.
Mate,
Honestly.
amount
Honestly,
of
mate.
people that I know that say that since I've had my first since they've had one of these vaccines, that they've been like, I've just not been the same since.
And I'm being serious. Like, I didn't know that other people said that, but from what I felt like before I went into COVID, mood, energy, everything,
Think
it's
it's affected.
not been the same
Think
since.
it's affected add-ons like you've been talking about.
Probably, mate. That's probably why I tested at fucking 0.01 or whatever.
We did an Optimal test, and I've got everyone doing it now. People just send them the results all the time.
Anybody learn
Yeah, but
mine?
I'm a conspiracy theory now because everyone's just coming back at 0.2. So could this just be a fiddle that your test is at 0.2, which is a subnormal range, just so they can prescribe you TRT?
But what you should do then is just test a fucking 17-year-old guy's blood, who you know has got high test levels. Send him in. If they say it's low,
Yeah, but
pull him
have
up.
they now? Is the and again?
Yeah,
when
probably
we start
not now,
thinking
actually, they probably aren't.
conspiracy stuff now. Think about stuff like what's going on the food, what's going in the food.
Well, I'll
what
just
you
test.
spread
I'll just
anybody.
test someone who's juiced at girls.
How is that affecting you? How is that affecting everything? So
I'm back in the game now, mate. I'm waking up with fucking Corey's there. I'm happy.
I'm about to.
Sexual dreams. It's fucking all going off, mate. Threesomes, foursomes. Sometimes.
What you want here? Give that.
What are you doing?
Well, listen, we'll talk about it off cam, but
Oh, right.
just all you need to know, boys. I'm optimal.
It's prescribed. I just did a finger prick test. It said I was super low, so I've ordered a blood test, which I need to get done. And then whatever that says, I'm just taking doctor's advice and firing it in.
This is the thing now that I'm intrigued by. Like,
Yeah, but I was just thinking, what are you, 29, 30?
now we're in his 30s now.
Shouldn't be.
Mate,
having
after 30,
shouldn't
they
be having to put
after
50
30,
in at this age.
yeah, but this is what I always think with you. What if you took the test now for 29 quid, right? And let's just say you trusted the test, and it came back, and you were like in the normal range. So like I were in the normal range. You weren't like there were no going on. There were fucking something in ball sacks happening. I don't know what, but it were low. You want to be optimal.
Yeah.
So to me, like there has to be some understanding. Even with these peptides now, I want to know more about this BPC 157, TB 500. There's a lot of peptides that are doing the rounds now, which for what we do, especially you, who's like doing these ultra events and you want your body to be strong everywhere, that I know some people can be anti-drugs, but if it's a peptide that's already in the body or the body understands it and it's very like normal for it and it can benefit you, like BPC 157, I've been doing some research on some journals now, like just in terms of for someone like you who's been punched a lot, and you know how many concussions you probably had at rugby where you've had your bell rung, that there's a lot of regenerative properties with that. It's like knowing. So like all these Ben Greenfields who, I don't like to dive too deep into these people who are proper biohackers, but you can definitely take something from what they're doing. That's what I want to learn, because if there's something there that you can be more optimal, surely you want to be more optimal.
Why did you want to get your test levels tested? Just curiosity.
I went on fucking suicide watch. Mate, I just didn't feel me. I got lost me because last thing I want to do, you know me, I don't want to just be like everyone else. And I felt like, yeah, I'm making money that I'm doing and whatnot, but fucking hell, I felt like I was selling my soul to the devil, you know, what I'm doing. And my physical body's always felt good. And if I want to train, I can train hard, but it were more, I was feeling mentally drained.
But how much training were you doing at that time? Because you were out, you went out of it.
Well, I went out of it for a while. I think where I go wrong, I still feel like I'm 18 in my head, so I'll just do double sessions to try and get it back. I know in my head, me, and it's a bad trait to have this, that I can pull my rig back. I know it shouldn't just be about the physical rig, but I can pull it back in 4 weeks, me, if I diet and I train hard. It's back in 4 to 6 weeks. But I probably just been overcooking it a little bit, and then you start getting a few little niggles, shoulders coming back, my knees hurting me, whatever, and then I'll just justify it not to train around that when you should be able to train around that. There's something I can do in my garage now, which even if it's just a walk a day or some pull-ups or I've got bike there, or whatever I'm doing. Me, I've never been as regimented as you. I probably got into training to begin with just solely for looks. And then now at 34-year-old, I'm going to have to start thinking of longevity, health. How do I actually feel in my body, not how do I look?
I think that's where a lot of people are wrong with training. A lot of people, it is about the aesthetic side of how they look. And I think I said it before, for me, even though I probably look as good as I've ever looked physically, I'm more focused on the challenge of it and doing hard stuff.
I've been watching what he's
And I
been
think
doing,
if
Keith Brook. He seems to be in that mindset a minute as well,
Yeah.
Brookie. What's that, High Rocks?
Hyrox is good, mate.
It's like CrossFit, innit?
It's probably a bit more user friendly. I'd describe it as. So you, instead of doing like Olympic lifting or gymnastic moves, it's more just simpler tasks. So you got everything starts with a run. So you'll do a run, then you'll do a ski erg, you do a run and a sled pull, sled push, row, farmer's carry, burpee, broad jumps, lunges, so wall balls. So all the movements are relatively easy in comparison to what people do at CrossFit. But I do think a lot of CrossFitters will come across to it and fucking blast it because they are the ultimate athletes, aren't they? I think CrossFitters. And I've got an event actually in October. I'm doing a pairs one in October, then I'm doing a singles in January. So I'll be a bit of training for that as well.
Have you ever looked into CMOS?
No,
Have you heard about it?
no.
It's meant to have 92 minerals that your body
You
needs.
you eat it, or is it broken down into a drink?
It's
or?
like you can do either. It's like a what texture is it? It's like hard honey or dry honey. It's like
I've been using that Shijat.
there's a mushroom though in it.
No, that's like a black.
What you put in your coffee? That Indian thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
tasty.
salt
That's
based
tasty.
and all stuff like that. So I've been using that a fair bit.
I'm just trying to get into that. Like I've heard about that CMOS before, and I've seen loads of like celebrities and athletes using it. So then I went onto that CMOS on Instagram, messaged them, and they were like, "Hey, you can be an affiliate if you want to. Send me some free pots out." Don't know if I feel much off it at the moment, but
I think sometimes with anything like that, you've got to be willing to take it for a sustained period. Sometimes people, and I've done it myself before, where I've seen some, I've tried it for a month. Oh, I don't feel out, fuck it off. But I think if you probably need to gauge it over a 3-month period. The thing with the detoxing stuff is that because I've got my device, I can see all my stats are actually changing by doing that. I'm not sure with that CMOS stuff if it would give you any indication by looking at your whoop if it would do it with that.
I'll keep taking it. They've said that you can be an affiliate, so but you're too lazy to even DM them.
Yeah, but I want to know if it's good first. I'm not just going to start being an
Fucking-
affiliate for some of that. I don't even know if it's
Yeah, but
worth.
Check it and try it.
If they're going to give you it for free to try, just try it.
Got a fucking cupboard full of mad shit that I just not tried yet,
Should
mate.
see my stack
I need
on
to
the
get me.
morning,
I need
mate.
to get
It's
me.
fucking ridiculous.
There's an order for me, and first and foremost is getting me nutrition right before I start layering in all this other crazy shit.
Yeah, I guess.
Not just smoking fucking American spirits and fucking nicotine out there. You know what I mean? Do we get
And
that?
rest.
Yeah, and the rest.
Have you ever done any psychedelics?
We once went to Amsterdam on an end of season rugby trip, and we ended up eating some mushrooms in this shop.
Yeah, but didn't you just run home then after that? Didn't you, wasn't that
No,
one where
no,
Claire
I'll tell you a
picked-
couple of stories. Actually, we've been twice. So first time I went, I don't know if it was after we got promoted. I think it was after I got promoted. We went into. It's mad, innit? Because they give you a list. So you got your take these and you feel like you're in a cartoon. Take these and you feel like you're just thinking about the meaning of life, and then somewhere in between you might be laughing and giggling. So we went mid-range, and we just fucking laughed for about 6 hours. Went back to his hotel room. We were all going to have a nap and go out on the night. Nobody woke up till next morning. So that my experience with mushrooms, and then second time I went, tried it again and got a plane home.
What, freaked out?
Yeah,
Sounds like something I'd do.
first day. And so I went in. We were in this in this bar. You could go downstairs. We'd already ate some mushrooms. Went downstairs. It's like a fucking smoke den where everybody's smoking the weed, and then went into this toilet. But to get in, it was weird because to get in the toilet, you had to step up into the toilet, but then bob down to go under. And as you look around, it was like all broken mirrors. So I'm stood in the toilet having a piss, looking around all these broken mirrors, and my head just went. And I went out. And I just ended up getting a taxi to the airport. Paid fucking 300 odd quid for a flight home.
Just tripping balls on plane.
And my mum and Alice picked me up from Manchester Airport. And
Proper
I was
evac,
just
that.
Sleeping back at camp. That were weird.
I know you're like intrigued by it, but I feel like with your family situation, living situation, you can't just be going on big mushroom trips.
Can't do shit like that anymore, mate. And again, it's some. I'm
Yeah, but wouldn't you like to go away and do ceremony and do it properly?
Yeah,
and like,
I am. Yeah, but it's like if I try and have a conversation with Claire about stuff like this, she doesn't see it from the same perspective.
she's just trying to get off your head.
But possibly, yeah. But Claire works with people who have mental health issues, and a lot of it comes from drug abuse. So I think Claire sees it more from a point of.
It's going to bring
Gateway.
She's only really seen that side of it. Rather than seeing the potential benefits to it, she's only seeing the negatives to it. So I can understand why she thinks like that, and that's fine. But I'm open minded to everything. It's like even with, like I said, even with conspiracy stuff, flat Earth thing, I'm not ruling it out. I've just not dived into it enough. I probably don't want to be honest. But like we're using certain drugs, and I've heard people talk about DMT and ayahuasca and microdosing with mushrooms and all. I've heard people talk about it all the time. I've just not dived into it enough, and I don't know if I would. I don't know. Possibly do it at some point, but I just don't know.
I do.
It's not something that's at the forefront of my mind. What I'm like, I really want to do that.
I had this debate with myself the other day. Like, you know, if you do smoke cannabis or you do mushrooms or you're intrigued by, being introspective, trying to understand yourself, understand where you should go, what you should do. The only thing that I feel with doing that, and I felt this in myself, is you do lose your edge. And you
What if
definitely
you're smoking weed, you mean?
just like if you can definitely, and a lot of people, myself, do this. You can smoke weed for recreational purposes, and you'll do it for the fact that you just want to chill out, relax, eat food, connect with your missus, whatever you're doing. You can just do that. But for me, it should be used as a tool where you can be introspective. And for me, my point being here that you smoke enough weed or do enough mushroom trips, you're going to question a lot of the things that you do in your life. I've done this myself. Like, why are you just so focused on money? Why are you spending all your time in this business? Why are you doing that? And it'll numb you to that fact. That's not always a negative for some people. So, like, someone like Andrew Tate, who's very anti-weed or anti-drugs. Well, yeah, because that's going to take you off that edge of pursuing money and being in that capitalist roller coaster, which is never ending, is it? There's an unlimited amount of money to be made. You can buy as many cars as you want, as many houses as you want, as many women as you want. But for me, getting into that, it used to scare me that much every time I did it. Every time it's never been like any psychedelic drug's never been a good trip, but it definitely makes you introspective of what you're doing with your life. That were always the key for me.
Just think a bit deeper.
Yeah, because that's what you want. That's surely what you should want to understand.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right things? Am I in the right course? What should I be doing?
That's why it intrigues me.
Yeah.
That's why it intrigues me.
And mushrooms slows you. Like there's, especially with mushrooms, there is no exit in it if you do it right. Like where you'll have freaked out there, you shouldn't be doing it in a public setting. It should be done in a controlled manner, dose dependent, setting. It sounds fucking weird. There's an intent or an intention when you're going into it. It's a lot of people just end up doing it recreationally, just see like, wow, how do I feel?
What about that DMT? Because I've got a friend who's just tried that recently, and he said it was just fucking.
I'll let Ellis tell his experience.
Well, before I tell my experience, I'll send you a link of the comedian Paul Smith, the Scouse comedian, Ginger guy. Have you seen him? He talks about his DMT trip on his most recent comedy show. It's on YouTube, and I'll send you it. It's like a 15-minute long story about his full experience, and I guarantee if you and your missus sit down and watch it, she'll probably go on then, I'll let you do it. And you'll probably go, yeah, I want to do it now. There's no point telling you my story because mine wasn't too crazy, but I've just ordered a chocolate bar, a mushroom chocolate bar, So it's actually made of cacao, you know, the whatever it's used for, chocolate, opening your heart chakra or whatever. It's actually made in cacao, and it's got 1 gram of mushrooms per square, and there's 5 squares. So I won't be doing full bar, but at some point when the time is right, I'm just going to sit at home, set an intention, write it in a notepad or whatever, put some chilled music on, and just sit in there for like 4 or 5 hours. Because I think the reason I want to take it is, you know, you just said then about you do get to sit and like look into your life and have a solid think about where you're heading and where you want to be. When you're sober, you don't really get that time because you're too focused on these other things. Whereas if you sit down for 5 hours and do mushrooms and think, right, this is me for the next 5 hours, I'm locking myself in the house with some nice music on, you're going to be able to dive deep into your own brain, really, aren't you?
But I don't understand how you just sit there like this and just fucking sit and relax, put your head back, go to sleep, close your eyes.
Well, whenever
we put a mask on, don't we?
DMT wise, it only lasts 5 or 6 minutes, so it's for a vape pen. You would put a mask on and just like Josh were playing music and he were like making sure I wasn't freaking out. But not that I could have done it on me. I could have done it in my own room. I don't think I would have freaked out in my mindset. But with mushrooms, the 2 times I've done it, or maybe the 3 times that I've done it, I've always done it like with boys, having a bit of a laugh, which is the wrong way to do it. Whereas the next time I do it, I'll probably do it on my own, or I'll do it with anyone else who wants to sit and take it serious and just sit in your own thoughts.
Well, look at the drugs that are popular in Western culture: caffeine, Adderall in the West, nicotine. These are all things that are going to speed your brain up to go and work harder. Like if you look at the origin of coffee in the workplace, it was to make, they didn't have to take breaks. So like we're just indoctrinated from a young age that these are the drugs you should take: caffeine, nicotine, keep you going, don't they? They're definitely stimulants. Why is society so anti weed? Why is it so anti psychedelics when it's only making you go introspective? Like the word gets out then, you know, like Claire mentioned, then there's probably is some psychosis brought on through abuse of it. But who's to say those people weren't going to be psychotic anyway?
I always think my argument back always is, well, if you abuse anything,
Yeah.
it's not going to be good for you. And I'm sure everything. It's like when people. Cause again, with me and Claire have had discussions where, what about if I wanted to maybe get stoned in house? I wouldn't smoke. I'd probably eat chocolate or whatever. How is that different? Provided the obviously kids aren't about or whatever. How is that different to having a few beers or if you know what I mean?
There is no difference.
And
in my book.
I know that if I have too much alcohol, I can be fucking bit obnoxious. That's probably when the worst side of me's come out in the past when I've been intoxicated.
Goffing on folk.
Yeah, and if you have too much weed, if you have too much weed, what happens then?
Well, I've never really done it, but when
You'd sit
yeah.
there laughing,
Well,
fall
why can't we
asleep.
why can't we just get to Secret Beach? You can have an edible. We'll have a biff down. We'll just fucking see what happens on Secret Beach. He's got a Secret Beach about 40-minute walk, 30-minute walk.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'll do that.
Weather would
We'll
be
crop that bit out pod so you'll last and see it.
We're up to an hour and a half, and we need some food. But I want you to plug your online training
Can
business.
I just tell a quick story about Ben first?
Yeah, folded you in half, has he?
No, I've got a good story.
Okay, now
so
listen,
so back
Big
to your
Red just sang,
mischievous
Colin.
days, the Ben from Normie. Did you do a lot of motorbike thieving?
no,
No,
Not guilty.
I don't think so.
I've been told that you robbed my granddad's moped and burnt it out at Pylon Ponds.
Sounds like something to do.
I don't think I've ever robbed a moped. I once tipped a 3-wheeler over with a few of us. We tipped a 3-wheeler over and fucking got caught. So we were in school then, but I've never nicked a moped. I don't think.
I always want to tell the stories, but Watsy hates it when I bring them up. So I've like been banned from telling them stories with Watsy.
What, the car chase?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to fucking bring that up.
Why?
Yeah, he always says to me, "Oh,
don't- he
Daddy,
don't-
didn't talk about it." But
Well, they took chase and just fucking did the car get flipped?
no, it went straight through a wall, and I must have been. What we'll talk.
I must have been driving.
No, I weren't driving. But I was in passenger seat, and I must have been like dazed a little bit because I kind of come round and I'm pushing airbag off. Driver's disappeared. I'm like, fucking hell. So I got out of the car and just ran off. I was jumping all fences and whatnot. But yeah, that was a good story. We won't get into it too much. I don't want
Did you get away?
Big Judd. Yeah, I got away. I were all clear, but then somehow I still got done. So make what you want of that.
Some snitches.
But yeah, in fact, that would end of my OKR career first time around. That was 2011, mid to back end of 2011. And my argument then was, but I hadn't done out wrong. And chairman was like, well, you were fucking there. I'm like, well, yeah, fair play, I were there. But I had to had to take some legal advice on that because Hull KR wanted to sack me, but by the letter of the law, just because I were a passenger, so I was just a witness. I'd not actually done anything to break the law. I weren't evading police or anything like that. Because as far as they knew, I weren't there. And then that's when I left Hull KR, and then I went to Featherstone, and then after that, that's when my career changed. Then because I got my personal training qualification, went to Wakefield, got involved in Herbalife. That must have been beginning of 2012 then when we started with that. And then started going to all these fucking seminars about Herbalife and business building and personal development. And by 2013, I've been picked for England squad. Best 2 years of my rugby career. And then Hull KR bought me back. So.
When
yeah,
did you?
that'll come on back of that.
What
That'll
year?
come back
What
on
year
that.
did you bend that guy in half outside that pub in Normie?
Ben
Oh,
that
that
game.
was years
Alright.
ago. Yeah. Again, just sticking my nose in somebody else's business, really. Trying to step in, and then
Shit happens.
yeah.
Me quite often.
Plug your coaching and whatnot.
Well, I've only just got into online side of things because I'm a bit of a fossil. I don't like change too much. I do prefer the face-to-face stuff, but I've just got myself an online coaching app where I can lay out people's programming, nutrition, and help them out that way at a distance, really. So yeah, that's going on. I don't want to be a fucking salesman.
Mate,
but-
fucking
Do it,
sell
mate.
it,
Show
mate.
bag.
Fucking hell, mate. Let's
but
go.
yeah, if anybody wants to go and have a look at my Instagram page, a lot of my stuff's on there. So I think we online training and online coaching. The reason I went to the guy that coaches me is because I look at him and I think, fucking animal, like he's a bit of a beast, and I like that idea of being able to do anything. So if you say to me, come on, we're deadlifting, I can deadlift. If you want to say, come on, we're off out for a 20-mile run, I can do a 20-mile run. So that's kind of my style, really, try and do a bit of everything, cover all bases, so to speak. And that's kind of what I promote and push through my methods.
What is your Instagram, just so we can pop it up on screen?
Ben Cocaine _
Nice.
Happy boys.
Thank you very much.
Another
Ben.
one in the bag, lads.
Cheers,
Smashed
lads.
it. Finally, come on.